Started recording. You can start.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm presenting on the applications of open mapping theorem. So first I'll just set up some notation. So given Banach spaces X and Y, I'll denote by this curly L of X and Y. I'll denote by this the space of all continuous linear maps from X to Y. And I'll use the same notation as the last class for the open balls, which is BR superscript capital X of X naught, which denotes the ball of radius R centered at X naught in the space capital X. So I've just written this out here. And if I'm not writing the center of a ball, then it's implicit that the center is 0. So recall that the open mapping theorem said that whenever you have a continuous linear map from X to Y, which is surjective, it will be an open map. So just using the notation to write it out. And from this, we can prove a direct corollary of the open mapping theorem, which is the bounded inverse theorem. So recall that for for vector spaces, if you have a bijective linear map, then its inverse, then it has a bijective linear inverse. But this is not true for metric spaces, where a bijective continuous map may not have a bijective continuous inverse. So this is saying that for Banach spaces, we have this nice property that whenever you have whenever you have a bijective continuous linear map, it has a two-sided inverse. So and the converse is also true, which is more trivial, which is that if a map has an inverse, then it has an inverse as a set map, so it is bijective. So the non-trivial direction is that bijective implies bijective continuous linear maps have continuous linear inverses, which is also not that hard from the open mapping theorem. So since it is bijective, so I'm only going to prove the non-trivial direction, which is the backward direction. So since T is bijective, by the open mapping theorem, T is open. So open mapping theorem. So this means that if we take if U is open, U is an open set of subset of X, then T of U is open. Open in Y. So, but now we can write T of U as just T inverse of whole inverse, T inverse whole inverse of U. And T inverse is a well-defined map because T is bijective. So we get that for all open U, this T inverse of U is open. So we get that T inverse, the set map, is in fact continuous. And linearity of T inverse follows from linearity of T directly. That is just theory of vector spaces. We don't need anything new there because the inverse of a linear bijective map will be linear. So this is open, so T inverse is continuous. So we are done. So the next corollary is just a slight generalization of this. So if it's fine, I will skip this for now. In the book, this is done before. So I'll skip this for now and come back to it after the two theorems, the closed graph theorem and the uniform boundedness theorem. So unless there's a problem with that. So I'll come to this later. But I only need the bounded inverse theorem for now. So this is the closed graph theorem. So first I'll define the space X direct sum Y. So given Banach spaces X and Y, I can define their sum to be, so first take the just Cartesian product of X and Y as a vector space. So we know how to do this for vector spaces. And we just need to define a norm on this. So define this norm to be such that the norm of X comma Y is the norm of small x plus the norm of small y. So similar to metric spaces where we define the metric on the Cartesian product in this way, just take the sum of both the distances. And yeah, so this is the first thing we need to prove is that the projections are going to be continuous, which follows directly from the theory of metric spaces, because in metric spaces we've done this, that when you define the distances to be the sum of coordinate-wise distances, which is exactly the metric this will induce, you get continuous projections. So I'll just write this in brackets. So the projections projection onto x and projection onto y are continuous. And in fact, these are also linear, because we know this from metrics, from linear algebra, that when you have the product vector space of two, when you take the product of two vector spaces, the projections are linear. So these are in fact linear. And now it should be easy to see that this is a Banach space. Given a Cauchy sequence in this space, you just project it onto the two Banach spaces, and you can show that those two will remain Cauchy, because continuity is equivalent to uniform continuity on normed linear spaces. So you can take the limits there and then put them together in a tuple, and it's not hard to see that it will be the limit of the Cauchy sequence. So I'm just skipping over the proof. That is just easy to see. So in this way, we have this Banach space, which is the sum of two Banach spaces. And then there is this set, which is g of t. So g of t is the graph of t as a function. So g of t is the set of all x comma y, where x is in capital X and y is equal to tx. So I'm saying that, so then I can say that g of t is closed in x plus y. So I have to show that this t is continuous if and only if its graph is closed. So first I'll do the forward direction. So a continuous map has a closed graph. This is true for all metric spaces. We don't even need the Banach space structure here. So t is continuous. So we have to show that the graph is closed. So suppose, so let's take a sequence in the graph. So let's say we have xn comma yn in the graph, such that xn comma yn converges to x comma y. So since the projections are continuous, we get that xn will converge to x and yn will converge to y. So far we just know that this x comma y is an element of x plus y. But what we want to show is that this in fact belongs to the graph of t, because then we'll have that the limits of all convergent sequences in the graph of t are in the graph of t. So the graph of t will be closed, which is exactly what we want to show. So it is enough to prove that y is in the graph. Y is in the image of, not just the image, that y is equal to the t applied to x. So we have to show this. And so since we already have these two convergent sequences in x and in y, we get that since xn converges to x and t is continuous, we get that txn will converge to tx. But but now what is txn? It is just yn, because xn comma yn belongs to the graph of t. So this means that each yn is equal to txn. So this above thing then just gives us that yn converges to tx, but we already know that yn converges to y. So this means that tx and y should be equal. So we get that y is in fact y is equal to tx, and therefore x comma tx, this point, will be in the graph of t, which means that the graph of t is closed. So the forward direction is done, and now we need the backward direction, which is that if the graph is closed, then the map is continuous. So this is not the case in metric spaces, where you can have the function which is 0 on 0 and 1 by x elsewhere on R. Then its graph will be closed, but it's not continuous at 0. So this is not true for metric spaces, but it is true for Banach spaces. So the backward direction. So we need to show that T is continuous from the fact that its graph is closed. So G of T is closed. So we want to show that T is continuous, but this is what I'll show, that if you take the map which is identity on X and T, so if this map is continuous, this is my claim, where this map is defined from, it's defined from X to X plus Y by taking small x to X comma Tx. So I'm claiming that this is continuous, and this is enough to prove that T is continuous, because then I can just compose this with the projection onto the second coordinate. So that will give me the continuity of T. So it is enough to prove that this is continuous. So notice that so take the projection onto the first coordinate of the graph. So we have the graph of T, and we can project it onto X by sending X comma Tx to just X. So notice that this is exactly the inverse of this map. So here I can replace this by G of T, the graph of T, because the range of this map is just the graph of T. So if I restrict the codomain to graph of T, then these two maps become exactly inverses. Pi of X, the projection onto the X coordinate, and then this map which maps onto the graph of T. So now we know that this map is continuous and linear. So this I just stated before. This I just stated before, that all the projections are continuous and linear. So this map is continuous and linear, and these are exactly inverses of each other. Therefore, this is also continuous and linear. So for now, we only know that this is linear. I have to show that it is continuous. So this is linear. And now, as I said, it's enough to prove that this is continuous. So I have to show that this is continuous. So now I have pi x, which is a continuous, linear, and bijective map between Banach spaces. So this is a map from G of T to X. And my claim is that this is a Banach space, G of T. And it's not hard to see that it is in fact a Banach space, because first of all, this is a vector space. So that is easy to see, because it is the image of a linear map from one space to another. So this is a vector space, and it is a closed subset of the Banach space X plus Y. So it's a closed subspace of X plus Y. So therefore, G of T is a Banach space. So now I have a continuous linear bijective map from one Banach space to another. So therefore, by bounded inverse theorem, which I just proved, its inverse is so pi x inverse is continuous. So but pi x inverse is exactly, again, this map, which is identity on the first coordinate and T on the second coordinate. So we get that this map is continuous, and therefore we are done, because now we can compose with the projection onto the second coordinate, and we get that T is continuous. So this proof is done. I hope this is all right. Map is continuous. Yeah, so a map between Banach spaces is continuous if and only if a linear map between Banach spaces is continuous if and only if its graph is closed. So here I didn't say it, but X and Y are Banach spaces there. So I'll move on to the next theorem, which is the uniform boundedness principle. So so we say that given a collection of linear operators between Banach spaces, we say that it is these operators are uniformly bounded if all the norms, if you take all the norms of this set is bounded. So this is uniformly bounded, which is exactly what's written here. Ti, like this set is uniformly bounded, i.e. the supremum of all these norms is finite. So this is uniform boundedness, and then we can also define pointwise boundedness, which is we can first pick an x. So pick an x and then just apply Tix on that, apply Ti on that, and take the norm in the space y, and do this for, so you get this collection. So if this is bounded for all x, then we say that the family of operators is bounded, is pointwise bounded. And the theorem is that for Banach spaces, if you have a family of operators, then it is uniformly bounded if and only if it is pointwise bounded. So first I'll prove the forward direction, which is uniformly bounded implies pointwise bounded. So this one is easy. So let's say the uniform bound, this supremum is R. So this is the uniform bound on the norm of Ti's. So now we need to find the norm of Tix. We want to bound this for each x. So take an arbitrary x and consider the supremum over I in capital I, norm of Tix. So we know from the properties of the operator norm that this is going to be less than equal to the supremum of Ti multiplied by norm of x, norm of Ti multiplied by norm of x. But now this quantity, which is norm of Ti, this is less than equal to R. So therefore, this is less than equal to supremum over I of R times norm of x. But now this quantity inside the supremum doesn't depend on I. So this is just equal to R times x. So we get that the supremum of this quantity is less than equal to R times norm of x. And since x is fixed for now, this quantity is certainly finite. And since x is fixed, like we've found a bound for, we found a finite bound for each x for this quantity. And therefore, for each point, the family of these numbers is bounded. And we get that our family is indeed pointwise bounded. So uniform boundedness implies pointwise boundedness. And the other direction is pointwise bounded implies uniformly bounded. So suppose we have pointwise boundedness of this collection. Now that means that yes, supremum over I of Tix is finite. So now I'm going to define, so the idea is to apply Baire category theorem, and I'll write the whole space as a union of countably many sets, which would then imply that one of those sets is not nowhere dense, and then I can do something from that. So define An to be the set of all small x and capital X, such that this quantity for that x, so this thing is true for all x, but now take, but for each x, this bound might be different. So now take An to be the set of all x for which supremum of Tix over I is less than equal to n. So take the collection of all x for which the bound is actually n. So then, since for each small x and capital X, you can take some large n of n such that it is bounded by this property. You get that X is a union of all these ANs. So union over n, AN. Now, one thing I'm going to claim is that each AN is closed. So AN is this set. So some X is in AN if and only if this quantity inside the supremum is less than n for all I. So the supremum of these numbers is less than equal to n if and only if all of these numbers are less than n. So therefore, I can write AN as the intersection over I uh, of these sets X in capital X such that uh, norm of Ti X is less than equal to n. So the intersection just forces that you're taking the set of all X such that each of these things is less than n. So that means, so now this is closed because it is an intersection of closed sets. All of these sets are closed. And all of these sets are closed because they are the inverse image of the norm, inverse image under the norm of the interval 0, 0, n. So, and this is a closed interval and norm is continuous. Therefore, all of these sets are closed and therefore AN is closed. Yeah. So now I have written X as a countable union of these closed sets. Therefore, there exists N such that AN is not nowhere dense, which means there exists some X in capital X and R greater than 0 such that the ball of radius R in the space X centered at some point X, some point X is contained in AN closure, but AN closure is just equal to AN. So there is some open ball which is contained in AN. So this is exactly what it means for AN to be not nowhere dense. And from this, now I'll prefer to work with we'll prefer to work with a ball which is centered at 0. So we'll just translate this ball. So consider BRX, which is just equal to this ball, but you translate it by X by subtracting X. Now my claim is that this is in A sub 2n. And the reason for this is that when you apply Ti to this ball, then the image of this is contained in the ball of radius n. So when you apply Ti here, so applying Ti here gives you something which has radius, something which has norm less than n, applying Ti to any element. And similarly, I stated that wrongly. Yeah, so I want to show that for any y in BRX and for any I, Ti of y, this norm is less than equal to 2n. So I want to show this. And this is true because Tiy is just Ti applied to something which is in BRX, something which is in this ball minus X, and which is now X is also in this ball again. So therefore we get that Tiy is just Ti applied to something in this ball minus something else in this ball. And the property of this ball, by definition, is that image of this ball under any Ti has norm less than 1, norm less than n. So this has norm less than n, this has norm less than n, and therefore this has norm less than 2n by the triangle inequality. So yeah. So therefore BRX is contained in A2n. So now we'll use this fact to prove the uniform boundedness. So we need to find a uniform boundedness, uniform bound for all the Ti, for all the Tis. So let's just apply Ti on something that has norm 1. So consider, so if norm of y, I'll use a different variable. So if z has norm less than equal to 1, so I'll just apply Ti on this and get a bound which won't depend on I. So if which won't depend on z or I. So if z is less than equal to 1, then that would mean that so I'll scale z such that it becomes an element of this ball. So I'll just multiply it by r by 2. So z times r by 2 is in this ball, therefore it is in a to n. So by the definition of a sub 2n, I get that Ti, for all I, Ti applied to this element z r by 2, the norm of this is less than equal to 2n for all I. But now using the linearity of Ti and I can take the scalars out of the norm, so I get that the norm of Tiz is bounded above by 4n by r for all I. So now this bound is independent of z and I. I mean, of course, it's independent of I because I'm doing everything for all I. So it's independent of z, which means this is now a uniform bound, not a pointwise bound. So because this gives that norm of Ti is less than equal to 4n by r for all I. So this proves that Ti, the collection Ti, since this does not depend on I, the collection Ti is then uniformly bounded. So supremum of all of these is less than infinity. I proved that it is in fact less than 4n by r. So I hope this is fine. Yeah. So sorry, did you say something?
No, I said it's fine.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll just come back to this corollary, which I left for the end. So yeah. So recall the bounded inverse theorem again. It was that any continuous linear bijective map has an inverse, which is continuous and linear. So yeah, this is a slight generalization of this in the sense that now you take, instead of so you have a continuous linear map, but instead of bijective, you take an injective map, and then you see whether then you see that these two conditions are equivalent. So the first condition is that its range is closed subspace of Y, which is equivalent to saying that its range is a Banach space. And the other condition is that the operator is bounded below. So this I have to define. And so recall that the definition of boundedness, which was that there exists C greater than 0, such that T applied to X is less than equal to C multiplied by norm of X for all X. So this was the definition of bounded. In the so for bounded below, what we do is we just switch this inequality the other way. So you don't get arbitrarily small images for the same magnitude X. So yeah, so we have this equivalent. So if when I prove one direction of this, it will become clear how this is related to the bounded inverse theorem. So first I'll prove 1 implies 2. Yeah, and 1 implies 2 is direct from the bounded inverse theorem. So we have T from X to Y, but we can just treat it as a continuous linear map from X to range of X. So we don't need to range of T. So we don't just making it surjective. So we're just restricting the codomain to the range. And since it's already given to be 1-to-1, this also makes it bijective. So this is now an element of LXTX is bijective. And clearly TX is a Banach space because that is our assumption that we are assuming one, which is TX is a closed subspace of a Banach space. So since it's a continuous linear map between Banach spaces that is also bijective, it has continuous inverse. So T inverse is continuous or bounded. So instead I can say bounded here since these notions are equivalent for Banach spaces or norm-linear spaces. So T inverse is bounded. So therefore, there exists some C greater than 0 such that T inverse applied to X. Yeah, I'll use Y here since my space is capital Y. T inverse Y is less than equal to C applied to Y, C multiplied by norm of Y for all Y. Yeah. So now Y is just equal to T applied to T inverse Y. So this is just equal to C multiplied by T inverse Y. And since T inverse is a bijective map, in particular a surjective map, T inverse Y is just any arbitrary element of X. So I can substitute X here for a generic element X of capital X. And notice that this becomes exactly the condition for T being bounded above. I get that 1 by C norm of X is less than equal to T applied to X for all X. And this was exactly the condition for bounded below. Except that here the constant is just reciprocated, but it's still greater than 0. So we get that any such operator will be bounded below. I just have to prove that if I have a bounded below operator from X to Y, then its range will be closed. So it is enough to show that if I take a convergent sequence in the range, then it converges inside of its limit is also inside the range. So so consider a sequence Yn inside the range such that Yn converges to Yn capital Y. So I have to show that Y is in fact in Tx itself. That will prove that Tx is closed. And yeah, so yeah, so this is so first we can say that there exists some because we are taking Yn in Tx, so there exists Xn in X such that each Yn is equal to Txn. Just choosing one pre-image for each. Here we don't even need choice because our function is given to be 1-to-1. But just taking any pre-image works. So there exists some xn in X such that Yn is Txn. And my claim is that claim is that Xn is Cauchy. This sequence is Cauchy. So first we have that this sequence Yn is Cauchy, and from bounded below. So our assumption is that T is bounded below, and we are trying to prove 1. So we get that Xn is Cauchy, and here's why. So because Yn converges to Y, we know that this sequence Yn is Cauchy. So we get that there exists some for all epsilon greater than 0, there exists capital N natural, such that the norm of Txn minus Txm is less than epsilon for all n m greater than. So I can do this for Txn and Txm. I mean the sequence Txn, and now I also know that since T is bounded below, there exists some C greater than 0, such that when I apply T to X, then I get something greater than C times X. So yeah, so I have this Cauchy sequence. Now instead of epsilon, I can write C epsilon here. It's just a constant, so it wouldn't matter, where C is the same C as up here. And from this, I get that using linearity of T, I get that T xn minus xm is less than C epsilon. But this T xn minus xm, by the condition that T is bounded below, I get is less greater than equal to xn minus x C times xn minus xm, which means, so cancelling out the C's, I get that xn minus xm is less than epsilon for all n m greater than n. And so I do get that this sequence xn is Cauchy, and since X is complete, it's a Banach space, so it is complete. So therefore, xn converges to X. Xn converges to X for some X. And by the continuity of T, Txn converges to Tx, but we already have that Txn converges to Txn, which is Yn, converges to Y. And by uniqueness of limits in metric spaces, we get that Y is actually equal to Tx. So Y is an element of T applied to capital X. So we are done because we have proven that Y is in the range, and therefore the range is closed. That's it. Sir, your mic is muted.
Okay, so that's what you want to say.
Yeah.
So I will make some remarks, few things. Okay,
Okay.
you take your screen. I will connect.
Yeah. Wait, I'll do that. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So there are two theorems Lakshay has proved. The first one is closed graph theorem. Second one is uniform boundedness principle. So first remark I want to make is in the uniform boundedness principle, you don't need that to be Banach spaces. It's enough to have non-linear space. Because if something, see, the uniform boundedness principle says that if a family of operators are point-wise bounded for each x, then it is uniformly bounded. Then they are bounded in the operator norm. But you enough to have that theorem on the non-linear space, then you can complete it, and the whole thing will continue to be true there. Okay, so you can work. So you can the uniform boundedness principle is actually true for any non-linear space. I mean, if it is true on if it is something is point-wise bounded on a non-linear space, it is true for the completion also. You can extend all these TIs; they are all uniform continuous. So you can extend that to the completion, and there it will be again point-wise bounded. So hence it will be uniformly bounded. Otherwise, it is clear. Okay, so that is one remark. So the remark is in uniform boundedness principle. Non-linear space is enough. Okay, that's one thing. So then I want to give two exercise. Okay.
Wait, so the same proof doesn't work at least because I use bare category theorem.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. If it is no same proof will not work, but you can extend to
Okay.
the completion and it will work then.
Okay.
See, you are saying that if you have a family Ti, okay, this is uniformly bounded. If Tix is, we are only worried about this way. Okay, this is one. This is the
Yeah.
way. If Tix is point-wise bounded for each x, then you can extend it. You can
So we'll have to prove that the extension is also bounded. Right?
exactly, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It will be bounded. You can show that it will be bounded.
Okay.
Okay, so then it will be bounded. Okay, so that is just okay. You have to check. It's an exercise again. Okay, so that is one thing. The second thing I want to say is so the exercise. I want to give an exercise. The one exercise one is if we have x, y, or two, you can take non-linear space because we are just going to apply uniform boundary principle for the, but we can take it to be Banach spaces. Okay, and we have a B from x cross y, whatever the x direction or whatever. Maybe we can take x direction. With the same norm with Lakshay introduced. To, we can take it any linear space. Let us take it to be C. Okay, is bilinear. It's linear in both the variables. It's B of x, y. It's linear in both the variables. So if B is separately bounded on x and y, then it is then it is jointly. If B is separately continuous on x and y, okay, then B is jointly continuous. That is for all x in x, this y going to be x y, and for all y in this is x, no? For all y in y, x going to be x y. Okay, these are all continuous. All these maps are continuous. Then the map itself, the B itself is B is jointly continuous. Okay, you know what is jointly continuous means. Okay? So this will follow from. It's just you have to. It will be separately bounded, so you can. Jointly. This is linear map, bilinear map. You just have to find that B of x y. Here it's modulus actually because it's just you can have the spaces also, but it doesn't matter. Is less than or equal to some norm B times. This is what you need. Okay, you will get such a thing if you use just apply uniform boundary principle. You will get there. Okay, so this is one exercise. It's very easy. Okay, so I'm not doing it. I'm just leaving it as an exercise. The second one is so let Ti I and I contained in some B of maybe xy, doesn't matter, xy, such that Tix converges to some y. Tis converges. Okay, I wanted. Let us take sequence. It will work for the net also, but since I have not defined what a net is, so let us just take sequence. This I may be just is net. You can take nets also. Tn such that Tnx converges for all each x in x. If you fix a x, then Tnx converges. Then define Tx equal to limit n Tnx. You can use nets and define the same thing. Okay. Then T is a bounded operator. It's not clear. If Tn, this is not norm convergence. Okay. T does not converge to Tn does not converge to T in norm. It's only point-based convergence. But then even using point-based convergence, you can define T, and that limit is linear. So T will be a linear operator, but then T is also bounded. Okay, this is also an application of uniform boundary principle. You can prove that norm T is bounded. It's very easy. It's a usual trick. Okay, using that you can prove that. So these two are exercise. That is one thing. So this is about uniform boundary principle. On closed graph theorem, so the first remark is it's very important that x and y are Banach spaces. Okay. Okay. Suppose if we have something which is not defined on the whole of Banach space, and if it has closed graph, then it does not mean that it is continuous. For example, you consider all those C1 continuously differentiable function contained in C01. This is of course dense there. I mean, polynomials are differentiable and they are there, and polynomials are dense. So this is dense there. Okay. Then you define on something on C1, okay, to C by F going to F prime. We have already seen that this map is not continuous because you can take this map T power n. Okay, the norm of T power n has to be 1. But on the other hand, n T power n minus 1, this has norm n and it's not bounded. So this map D is not bounded. T is not bounded. We know that. Okay, but then T has closed graph. Why is this true? What does it mean? So to prove a graph is closed, we have to, I mean, if to prove this will actually use this property, GST is closed. We have to prove that if xn converges to x, yn and txn converges to y, then we have to prove that tx equal to y. That's what we have to prove that something is closed. Okay. So to prove this, so it's clear. If suppose, so in this case, t is the differential operator. So suppose Fn converges to F uniformly, because if the convergence happens there, and Fn prime converges to G uniformly, then F prime equal to G. You can apply either mean value theorem or the fundamental theorem of calculus. I think it will follow from fundamental theorem of calculus. So why does it follow? You have Fn converges to F uniformly, okay? Then, yeah, Fn converges to F uniformly. So what is fundamental theorem of calculus is? If you have 0 to t, right? This is what it says. Correct? I have written it correctly. No. Okay. Something whose derivative is there. Then what happens? So we have that Fn prime converges to G. So Fn converges to F. On the other hand, here this converges to 0 to t. Because of uniform convergence, this goes to G. Okay. Now these things imply that
you'd also have minus Fn of 0 on the right hand side.
Say it again. Minus
Fn of 0 on the right.
Correct. Fn of 0. Right. Okay. On the other hand, this G, so Fn prime converges to G. So this will go to, this will all do. So this goes to F. So this is equal to F, right? Correct. So this implies that, and this will go. So this will go to F1 minus F of 0, right? This will go to that. So this will imply that F. Now it's clear. So this is equal to F minus F of 0. Now this implies that derivative of F prime equal to G. So by fundamental theorem of calculus, this says that the differential operator, the graph of the differential operator is closed, but then it's not continuous. So it should be defined on the whole of Banach space. That's very important. So that is one thing about closed graph theorem. There is second thing I want to say is there is something called, I don't remember the name of the theorem. There is a general thing. If you have an operator from x to y, okay, suppose let's assume that T is self-adjoint. I mean, let's take Hilbert space, H to H, just for convenience, just to prove the apply closed graph theorem, and T equal to T star. You don't really need it, but let's take T equal to T star, and T equal to T star. Okay, so you have a self-adjoint operator. Okay, I am not assuming boundedness. Okay. What do you want to say? I want to say that, yeah, that is, it satisfies this operator, Txy equal to yTx. Okay. You have an operator which is defined on whole of H, okay, which is self and it is self-adjoint. It satisfies this property. Txy equal to yTx. That's what I mean by this. Then it is just I'm not assuming anything else. It's just defined and it's self-adjoint. Then T is bounded. Why this is true? So y is so I have to prove it's continuous. So suppose xn converges to x. Okay. So I have to prove that it's a closed graph. I have to prove that the graph of T is closed. Okay. So you want to prove T is bounded. So enough to prove graph of T is closed. Okay. So suppose xn converges to x and txn converges to y. We have to prove that y equal to tx. Okay. Now tx with inner product with any z, you take any z, okay, equal to the limit of txn is it by that's how it is defined. Okay, sorry, I have to take y. I want to prove y equal to tx. So let's take y is z, inner product between y and z. Y and z, okay, that is equal to limit of txn. That is what y is z. Okay, we can inner product is continuous, so you can take the limit outside. Limit of txn is z. Okay. Now this we have noticed that this is equal to xn tz. Okay, because we have assumed self-adjointness here. Okay. So this is equal to x tz. Okay. Now this is equal to tx. Okay. So we have yz equal to txz. But we know that this implies y equal to tx. So the graph is closed and it is bounded. Okay. So this is an application of closed graph theory. There are many applications. It's applied in many places. So I just want to give an example of an application where you have just a self-adjointness, and that will imply that it's actually continuous. Okay. That's what I want to say. So if you have any question, you can ask. Otherwise, I will end this session and we will meet. One second, we will meet when shall we?
Hello.
Yes.
Sir, my presentation is remaining on application of boundedness.
We will meet at 6. We'll give a gap of 5 minutes.
Okay, okay.
We'll meet 5:53 now. We'll meet at 6. Yeah, you want to ask something, Anupam?
Yeah, so in the second problem where you were talking about separately continuous functions, can you just scroll up a bit? I want to see that problem.
It's the whole thing is there.
No, the earlier one, I guess.
The earlier one.
Yeah, that x sum y, that problem.
Yes.
That separately continuous implies jointly continuous.
Okay. That one. Okay, jointly continuous. So this one. Is there a problem?
Yeah. So thereby bilinear. I mean, do you really mean bilinear or just it is a linear map between x direct sum y and c?
It's a linear map between them. So you want to say bilinearity is enough, I think.
No, but I mean, a priori bilinearity is not exactly the same as linearity, right? Because that constant you can add it to any of the coordinates and
take it between them. You can take just bilinearity. It's enough. You don't need to. I mean, you want to say that b of alpha x y, alpha x comma y is also same as b of x alpha y. Whether you are asking whether that is the case, need not be there. Just bilinear in one variable is enough. I mean, 2 variables is enough. You can take x cross y. I'm just saying that you have a bilinear map because you are just. I mean, this is also true, but you want to apply from x cross y. You have a bilinear map from here to c. Okay. Then if it is separately continuous, then it will be uniformly continuous. Then it will be jointly continuous. That's also true. Okay. It is just how I mean, it's just I want to apply uniform boundedness principle for some case. I want to give an example. Okay.
no, so for to show that it is to show that it is jointly continuous, I mean, will you be showing it is bounded and all that? But then, I mean, for bilinear maps, is bounded and continuity equivalent? I mean, it requires some check, right? I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
let me check. I'm not sure. You assume something and it will work. I just want to say, yeah.
Yeah, so if you assume it to be linear, I mean, that is a times xy is ax comma ay, then I mean it will go through. But I'm not really sure if bilinearity.
I am also not sure. I don't remember. So you check whichever is correct, and once you write it, it will be clear. I'm not very sure. I have to check it. I don't remember. Yeah,
Okay.
it will go through it. Okay, we will meet in 4 minutes, around 6. Okay.